we spoke a little bit about before to maybe start with a check-in. So we decided to start with a check-in. And the reason for this check-in is to kind of like help us get into the mood, right? Now, I don't know if I'm talking to you or the audience. I don't know. You correct me. But we'll start with a check-in question to get us in the right mood, and maybe whoever listening to this or watching this also get in the right mood for what's going to happen. So we actually pre-decided what check-in question we're going to have. Are you ready for this then? So check-in question. When I say point of no return, what would you, where do your mind go?
I immediately think of like a one-way street. Like, have you been bowling when you get these, what's it called, like barriers on the track, and you can only go like one way, but still you got this like, what's it called, this fence on this bowling alley track, so it's like only one way, and you can't fall. I don't know why I feel safe with the word point of no return. It's like you don't have another option than going straight. And in one way, it makes me feel safe. I don't know why. I think I shouldn't feel. I don't know.
Now you got me started thinking about like climbing. Like yesterday I was in the forest and there's like this huge mountain. And I took my friends like on the wrong track. So we ended up like we could only climb up. We can't go down. So that's also like point of no return. We just have to continue upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I actually also feel safe in it because it's basically just to continue. It's like just doing and sort of it's progress, I think. Yeah.
What do you think, CR?
It's really weird. I haven't realized it, but I'm the same way. I also feel some kind of safety when one comes to point of no return, and I think it comes from like when I was studying at Hyper way back. We had a person coming in speaking about movie making and like how you come to, I think it was 75%, you end up at the point of no return. That's where everything has gone so far that you can't go back. So you know that after that it's going to, like clear itself out somehow. And I think it comes back to what I picked up from you, Johanna, is that there's like there is no options after that. Like when I'm at the point of no return, I can't choose anymore. It's just like I just have to enjoy. I can't choose because I can't change anything. So it's up to me to enjoy the ride, or not. Right?
Yeah, it's happening. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like
True.
Yeah. Nice check-in.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that it was going to be so positive.
Me neither.
Okay, but should we also maybe introduce ourselves so people know who we are? CR, do you want to start?
No. Okay, I'll start. Okay, so my name is, my long name is Christopher Robin Eklund. My short name is CR, which I much appreciate. So please call me CR. I've been working as a photographer for almost 19 years. I found myself with a wonderful family, and I found myself thinking that the freelance living of day-to-day finding a job was a bit too much for me. So I wanted to settle down and get a job. So I started studying Hyper Island. And from there, I'm now working at Hyper Island. I am currently head of methodology and culture. I've been working as a program manager. I've been working as many different things. Well, that was very worky. A little bit more private. I think I give up. I have 3 teenage children. They are very interesting to hang around.
Yes. And they all can drive the small motorbikes now because they got the license.
Yes, that is very true. 3 kids with moped license. and one kid going for the car license. It's it's most big step.
Cool. Okay, should I go then?
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Pernilla Hallberg. What should I say about myself? I work at Hyper Island now. I've been doing so for 4 or 5 years, I think. Different roles. I started off on the business side of Hyper Island, working with our courses for upskilling. Now I work with learning partnerships. I'm head of learning partnerships, which means that I do everything that connects our students to the industry and to companies. I have a cat named Charles. He's my best friend. I'm a little bit jealous because Johanna has a dove, but it's okay. I think that's enough for now about me.
Cool. So I'm Johanna, and I'm a student at Hyper Island right now, and I'm on my last month out of 2 years, so it's coming to an end. Right now I'm at my internship as a business development intern, and I will start working here after summer as well. So yes, I have a dove on my balcony right now, my chosen balcony, and they decided to lay eggs, and according to Google, the babies will, or the eggs will crack just like any time now. So we'll see. I'm gonna be a dove grandma. I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think, that's me.
Cool. Well, that's all of us. So I guess we're going to have a lot of perspectives here today. TechChill asked us to talk about things that connects to knowledge for growth. So I think we should start there, because I think that could be a lot of different things. So let's start by thinking about what do we associate with knowledge for growth? What does it mean to us? It's like a double check-in now, but that's okay. Yeah. Johanna, what do you think? Knowledge for growth.
Knowledge for growth to me is learning about how to learn, learning for the future. I think that in this fast-paced environment, when you learn something in the now, it might not be relevant in a couple of years. So in order to build resilience in this fast-paced environment, you need to learn how to learn fast. And that to me is knowledge for growing and learning to learn. But also I see it on 2 levels. On an individual level, learning for growing myself, but also knowing what I need to know. That's kind of the hardest thing, I think, in coming into a new environment or just dealing with change, is that I don't know what I don't know.
I think that's one of the hardest things, to know what you need to know, to know what questions to ask.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips and tricks? How do you know?
I mean, just staying humble into the unknowingness. I mean, it is scary sometimes. So I think I'm very picky with my environment, and I try to really nurture my surroundings so I will be able to so I can be vulnerable in that uncertainty. And it's hard because you can't control people and change people, but I can choose who I want to learn with, I guess, or who I want to learn from.
Mm.
Yeah.
I see a lot of thoughts in CR's eyes.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nice to hear words to this, because I can very much relate to what you're saying, and I'm like, and I'm quite visual, so I'm making pictures in my brain for the words, and I have I think the knowledge for growth is something about entering every situation as a clean sheet, and not looking at myself as anything else but a clean sheet. And like always figuring out, okay, so what am I? A sheet, a piece of paper, I mean. And looking at, okay, so what do I need to write down on my piece of paper right now to be able to handle tomorrow? But it's like the sheet is always clean. It's like every time, every new situation, there's nothing there. And if I learn to accept that, okay, today there's nothing there, but my strive towards something, that's what's going to get me there. Because I mean, right? It's like I don't know anything about tomorrow anyway, so I might just as well accept it.
What do you think is the hardest with starting from a clean sheet? Is it doing it in a surrounding where others may not have the same view, or like cleaning the sheet for yourself? Like, what do you think is the hardest?
Well, I think both. You're right, because I also need, when I have the clean sheet approach to life, I can. It's kind of difficult then if there's someone who he really has a like a cluttered sheet view upon life, then it's can be quite hard for my ego to kind of like merge those two. So I think that somehow I need to be very, very humble to my surrounding to stay on a clean sheet, the kind of mindset of like, okay, let's create something that for tomorrow will make sense, but maybe not now.
It sounds hard. Like letting go of not your past experiences, but like taking a clean sheet. It sounds easy, like, okay, let's start from scratch on this perspective, but you always have biases, and it's hard to not project old experiences on you. Like it's hard, you need to practice it. And maybe that's like also knowledge for growth, like knowing that, or being aware of that it's hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think like growth or like knowledge in general is a lot about awareness and like being in it. I don't know. Like when you talked, CR, I started to think about what I do like personally. Like, and maybe this is weird for people, but it's okay. I'm gonna try to explain it. But I used to moon cycle a lot as a tool for my personal growth, because you have the new moon, which is a new start, and you have the full moon, which like amplifies that. You get the power to like really apply the change. And and then it's like mainly like putting it all together before the next cycle begins. And I think it's kind of cool, because I started to do this like I think 2 years ago. So I do it every month. And it's like all connects to also think about like, what do I appreciate? Where am I? A lot of reflections on my behaviors or situations that I've been in, and like what I can do. What's my circle of influence? What do I want to do? Where do I want to be? What do I want to focus on for this cycle? Like what's important for me this cycle that's coming. So I'm always living in that one cycle, even if I have like a bigger picture for a full year, for example. When I do it, I just stay in that. So it's like a moment. And at Hyper Island, when we work with like reflection, we work with feedback, all of those tools that we have, I think that is like similar to how I use the moon. The moon is just a tool for me in this. It could be anything, like just connects to basically those tools as well. And using reflection as a tool, as a like growth to actually gain knowledge. Like, for example, if we talk about the well of knowledge, which is another thing that we work with at Hyper Island. It's the same thing, basically. Yeah. Maybe Christopher Robin, who is head of methodology, can explain the well of knowledge.
Yeah, I can. And I think we all can. But what I would like to come back to before I do that is, because when you talk about the moon cycles, I get really inspired. I didn't know this. Because, I mean, both you and Pernilla, you know the learning spiral, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
When you do something and then you take time to reflect and you realize, what could I do, or generalize and figure out what could I do differently, and then you apply it.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the core tools. And what you're doing is that you're putting super focus on the learning spiral, but you're using it as in a bigger perspective than I've heard of before.
Yeah.
Which is really, I mean, it's almost like prototyping, isn't it? It's pretty much.
It is. Yeah, but it is, because if you give yourself the time to reflect in that sense, and like, it's easier to have something to connect it to. That's why I connected to the moon, because it's already a natural cycle. It's already there. It's like real. So then if I apply it to that cycle, it's easier because it goes naturally in different stages that you can connect to your reflections. So you can actually see also the progress that you're doing throughout that cycle. And then when it's the full moon, you can always like close things like, what do I want to leave behind? Mm-hmm. What doesn't help me? I need to leave that behind and to start maybe doing something else so I can reach this potential for this full cycle. So I agree. It's a lot like the learning spiral. Because then you prototype, you test, you iterate, you do it all again. Like,
yeah. What I find interesting in us speaking about this is that we talk a lot about like our individual, like we direct it to us as individuals and our knowledge for growth. But my experience here at my internship here is that the norm is that we're biased to the other way, meaning that your like knowledge for growth is more focused on what I need to learn rather than how I learn. And we talk about like how we should do as individuals, like the how. But I believe that, or from my experience at my internship, that in the real world, we're still stuck in this what bias. We're very, and that I think becomes less relevant in time because we are in such a fast-paced environment. And yeah, I don't know how to change it because I don't think that's productive.
I agree. I think it's really hard for companies and organizations because it's a transition that has to be made with the individuals within the organization first. It's like knowing self, knowing others, knowing the system, or lead self, lead others, lead the system. You can't lead the system if you can't lead yourself. So in that sense, for me, it's basically the same thing. It's not different. Talking about it from my individual perspective or talking about it from a system perspective or an organization, because I still think it's important. But yes, it's a super hard question because I mean, talking about learning and development in an organization, of course, I can't say like, yeah, but look at the moon. It's good for you. But you can reframe it into something that could work from a business perspective as well. And I mean, now the change that we see in companies and more starting to invest in learning and development and seeing upskilling as a necessity, because I mean, we just know that approximately like 80 or 90% of everyone who is working will have to reskill or upskill within like the next 5 to 10 years. So that is a point of no return. Really. So then I think it's necessary also to start to think about the how, because the what we already know you have to upskill or reskill. Like, how are you going to do that? Yeah.
Are there like other trends in the world that you see connected to education and upskilling right now at the moment?
I think on the positive side, what I do see is that people are starting to invest in this, and companies and larger corporations actually see the value. I think a lot of them are struggling with the how, because it's hard. But at least, I mean, for me, that's the first step towards like sustainable growth and sustainable learning and development. I don't know what else I see. CR, what do you think?
Actually, I was thinking about a little bit, because we talk about the how and the what, and I'm not sure whoever watches this maybe have no clue what we're talking about. Yeah, so I'm just thinking if anyone would like to explain what is the how and the what. I'm throwing it out there. You're like,
yeah. I always think it's best for the students to explain, because they are the ones working with it like constantly. The content process model, or the walnut model, is also a tool. Johanna, do you want to explain the how and the what?
Yeah, I can start and you can fill in the details. Yeah, it's like when doing something, you can see things from, like, if you see it as like a linear process, you can see it from two different perspectives. So you can focus on what you should do, which is what most of us are maybe known to and used to, which is like, okay, what are we delivering, and like what are we gonna create, and the content of things. While the how focuses on, okay, how are we gonna work towards this? So like, how are we gonna deliver the what? I don't know.
Yeah.
So you can see like the content is up here, that's the what, and the how is down here, that's the process.
And the process is very much about how you're feeling when you're doing the what. You know, do you, in your relation, when you're doing the stuff at work, do you feel included? Do you feel important? Do you feel heard?
Yeah.
Basically what you're feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like figuring out the what, the how that makes things like a process go quicker. So I think that's like focusing and learning on how to handle the how helps us into creating like more effective processes, like turning projects into a 1-year project into a 1-month project. I think the how has a lot to do with that. But I'm so stuck in the why. I'm like, okay, this is
why. I think actually the reason why now I can't answer for you, but I'm laughing because being stuck in the why, or I have a need to always understand why I'm doing things, and I mean that's also human. Like I think that's also one of the reasons why people get stuck in the what, because it's like. And I just thought about that when you were talking, CR, about how the importance of how you're feeling when you're doing the what. I mean, for me, like it doesn't matter. Like if people ask me to come and do a talk about something, it could be like, "Can you do a UX talk?" I'm like, I can actually, because I know people. So I'm just going to talk about FIRO, like fundamental interpersonal relationship model. When so I start to talk about human needs. Inclusion, control, and affection. And that's also important in this setting, because the reason why it's hard for organizations to adapt, to change, and to grow and to gain knowledge for growth is because they are focusing on the what, not the how. And the how would be the people. Like, how can we make sure that we have a safe space for our people to grow together with our organization into the future? And then we have to go back to the individual level again, because that's what change is like. And to do successful change or transformation is about providing a safe space for individuals and human beings to like move ahead and to continue up that mountain with the point of no return.
Yeah.
make sense? Or like, what do you feel about that?
It led me to new thoughts of why. It wasn't my why. But I mean, I agree. And I believe that there's this, what's it called? Not bias, but like, I've lost the English word to it.
Say it in Swedish.
Yeah,
I've lost the Swedish word too. I've lost words.
It's a blank piece of paper, right?
Yeah. No, but people are, what's it called? Like when you think something, like, but it's not that way. Like you have a assumption. Yes. People assume that, like, okay, focusing on the how takes time, and I don't have that time because I need to do, and to me that's like, people talking about things they don't like you don't know what you don't know because maybe you haven't experienced this effective productive team where you have like led this team into being this productive and like organism, and leaving that to chance, or like leaving that into, like, I've heard something say like, but like I can take care of your needs, you're an adult. Like that makes me super sad to hear, because I mean it's that person's loss, and I think like there's only things to gain by becoming aware of how the how affects the what. And I would love to see more of the like those kind of discussions in the future.
I just started to think about this now. I don't know if but I feel like there's so much talking about like we should have a startup culture. We need to work like startups, but there we actually have like maybe somewhat of an answer, because a startup, they don't know. So they have to test and they have to iterate. They do the how every day because they don't know. So, but then they start to grow, and then it's a scale up, and then it's an organization, and then it's a lot of people to take care of. So they start to focus on the what instead, and they forget the how. Like. So basically, when talking about having a startup culture, it's not about ping pong tables. It's about them doing the how together, exploring, because they don't know, since they don't have the answers, they have to explore, and they have to work with a lot of uncertainty, which is similar to change. Like, so for a larger organization, it's actually a startup culture. You should look at how they do things more than like saying that you're a large company, like a company with 1,000 people working in it. Maybe you can't explore all together on everything, but you can find ways for people to explore together on different things and focus on the how.
And understand the
I just thought about it, so I don't know if it makes sense. It was just like I'm speaking what I'm thinking. Exploring with you.
No, but I totally understand what you're saying, because like you can't just copy the how. You have to understand the how. So like why do they have free lunches, or this kitchen in the center, like this table tennis table, like, and it is because of like building connections, and like you said, the how, like I recognize what you say. And that leads to another thing that we do a lot at Hyper, which is reflection. So no matter in what context, you need to reflect why things are happening, or like why you acted in a way in that scenario and stuff. So like those two together gets you far in your thinking, at least, or in your reasoning, I would say.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, CR?
Oh, I mean, I could sit here and speak for days. I mean, everything you talk about, I want to build on. But I think I'll go back to change, because I think change is such an incredibly interesting topic. I mean, you don't know. I mean, you know the old saying, what is it? The only constant is change, and I've heard it a million times. I'm like, yeah, oh, you know, it doesn't mean anything to me. But at least for me, during this time of moving stuff online and like doing things quite differently, I have realized, or I have come to a conclusion for myself of like change, of how my own relation to change is actually the outcome of the change. Like if I work in a startup culture, I mean, I would say that working in startup culture is one way of driving change. And when I drive change, I'm on top of the world. I'm a creator. I feel good. I'm pushing things. I'm pushing limits. I'm like, you know, there are certain energies. However,
certain energies.
However, when someone else is pushing change on me, and I don't want it, or like I'm not part of the decision making, or I'm not accepting it, then I will go backwards and I don't want it. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming to this really strong insight of like, as long as I'm believing that I'm pushing my own change, then everyone wants to change. But as soon as I believe that someone else is asking me to change, then it's not as interesting. And I think I can see that a lot during these changes of time when I speak to different people. Like some people are actually excited about doing things differently, and some people are not as excited of doing things differently. And how that then affects everything, what mindset I have. And I'm thinking about Hyper Island now moving online based on COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you have, Pernilla?
No. I just said yes.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like in one way, it's a lot of work that's very differently, and I so much miss standing in the room working with people, and you know, like you can smell people, you can look at them, and you know, like there's someone there. But I'm also realizing the opportunities we have since we've been forced online. Like there are other windows opening, and I'm like, okay, so where do I choose to look? Do I miss what I don't have anymore, or what I haven't had? Or I'm like, wow, I can actually close this meeting and be totally, like do something totally, you know what I mean? Like closing the lid of the computer creates another kind of like freedom. I've been thinking so much about change lately.
Yeah, but I think we should talk more about that. Like how, because it's also about like learning and education and point of no return, remote life, online blended learnings. I mean, because that's been a journey for us, definitely. And also for you, Johanna, you've been a student throughout all this. And like you've been a student when we've been able to meet in person, but you've also been through this transition towards going to just online and blended learning. So how has it been for you as a student doing this?
At first, it was super sad to not meet my class because we had such a strong culture. But now, in retrospect, I feel like I was lucky in a way that I got to experience both. Because I think I learned more from it, how to build a culture in a digital world. And also we got lectures from companies that were working remote before Corona. So for them, like it was like they were ahead of their time in a way, and to feel safe with like, no, but it works, and now I know how to do it myself, and to feel safe in that change. I think if I wouldn't have this experience, I would not think of it as I would feel more unsafe. because I wouldn't know how to build this digital psychological safety with my teammates.
What is your biggest learning, like going remote?
I think it's all the different tools we use. So like all the digital, I know, should I mention them? Like we use like Figma and Miro and all these co-creational tools where you can collaborate and ideate in a very quick way. And like if you compare it to before, like you maybe first plan a workshop, then you create the props for the workshop, then you do the workshop, and then you need to gather your thoughts and come to conclusions after the workshop. But now, and then maybe digitalize it. But now when it's already digital and already sorted, like a workshop can go from like we had one physical workshop at work and I was like, why is this not digital? Even if we had the opportunity to both, I was like, this is not productive. So I know that we could have done it for like 2 hours instead of 2 days if we would have done it digital. So like having that perspective when looking at things or problems or how to tackle tasks is very like enriching. So I think that's my biggest learning.
Yeah.
What's your biggest learning from like Hyper Island organization wise?
For me, I think I'm like, in my work, like with the learning partnerships and having a lot of collaborations with companies connected to the students, I think the first thing I thought about was, oh, that's awesome. Then I can pair the students in Stockholm with companies all over the world, and no one is going to say to me that I can't do it, because yes, I can, because it's remote. So for me, that was just an amazing opportunity to try and support and help all the students to work more in an international like playground. But of course, it also came with some challenges like connected to tech, and you don't know like how digital mature or technologically mature different companies are. So it needs to be like maybe some more structures and support from my side. But all in all, like now we've done it for over a year. And it's been like, for me, or my thoughts around it is that in overall, it's been a success. I know that communications can be a bit harder. There has been a few extra reflection sessions, a little bit more support. I think it's just, I get the sense that people need to feel more safe. Even more safety is important being online, because when you are like in a room together, you feel safe just because there's other bodies there. So that's like supporting. If it's only online, you don't have that physical connection, which is important. So it's a little bit more effort on building safety. I would say that's my biggest learning.
Yeah, it's like less. I start to think about like control. You can control and imagine like if you don't feel safe with like the technical things like handling Zoom, like you feel even less control. But yeah, from a student perspective, I can say that I think you handled it really well. Like I really felt like, okay, now we will do things in another way and it will be better. Like I feel like you really embraced the opportunities.
I'm getting like appreciation.
No, but we had like really cool speakers from the US and like from really big companies compared to like before we maybe focus on like local startups, which was also nice. But like having both now I could really feel the seizing of opportunities in that.
Yeah. CR, like for you, because you sit with the methodology and a lot of design, like learning design. What are you thinking about all this, being like on that side?
I mean, again, like if I drive change, then I like it. Like I have to step on the train or not. I mean, I'm used to working in circles with people, and again, like really facilitating through gut feeling, and working in this way over Zoom is quite differently, or over the computer. But for me, it creates so many opportunities that I wouldn't like to be without. I mean, such a simple one of being able to open the doors for our educations or our staff, even though someone can't come into the office. I think it's super inclusive. It's like, yeah, okay, we can't, we can't smell each other, but suddenly I can, like if you have a cold or something, or there's a reason why you can't move from one place to another, and there's no longer a reason to exclude someone because of that. I mean, basically you can include anyone right now. And yes, I need to think a little bit differently how I work, and I love it. I think it's really great. But I was thinking about this thing of feeling safe, and realization came to me right now of how when we sit in a room and work together, we don't really, I don't connect with a group, I connect with individuals. Mm-hmm. And the more individuals I connect and feel safe with, the more I think that I connect with a group. And you challenge me if you think I'm wrong, but that's what I'm thinking right now. And on the breaks, I will pair up with whoever I feel mostly safe with, and we will talk and we'll create a bond. And we bring that bond back into the big room. And I think that's one of the things around, because I'm not so sure I need more structure just because I'm online. I'm thinking more of, I don't know if it's true, but I'm starting to think that what's really needed is these subgrouping, small, like working in smaller groups so that I can create bonds. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the key to creating me feeling comfortable working online, of just like small groups. I don't know. Yeah, I do know. That's what I believe right now. Tomorrow might be something else, because I'm a clean sheet.
Tomorrow is a clean sheet, yeah.
Right.
Cool. Like I just looked at the time. I think we're like almost up with an hour. I can talk about this with you guys for more than 2 weeks. But I was thinking to wrap it up. Should we do that also, hyper style, with a proper checkout?
Yeah.
Like I have a tricky checkout. Can we play with that? If I was a company, my first action tomorrow connected to learning and development would be, and why?
I know.
You go first.
I would create a way week right away, like an onboarding way week for my workplace.
Then so I think you have to. I think you have to tell people what a way week is.
Yeah. So as a part of our onboarding as students at Hyper Island, we have this called way week, or like foundation weeks, but way week is the first week of those foundation weeks, which is we will learn all these models and tools, and we do exercises and challenge ourselves. And I don't think I've cried so much in a week. You really dig deep yourself. You reflect a lot in the team, both individual and also group reflections, and you build really strong connections with the people you will collaborate with for 2 years. So that foundation we built in a week, and everybody said like, oh, it feels like we've known each other for years. And I think that would be my first go.
I don't know. I'm like, I would take my time and sit down and eat in each individual. I mean, we're talking 3,000 people company here. But
you could also be a company with just 10 people.
Okay, we'll do that. So then if I led that company, or I would sit down and have a conversation with each person I'm working with, where I focus both on what they're doing, but a lot of focus on how they're doing at my company. And I would, with that information, I would recreate the company structure or maintain, depending on what I get out of these. But to see if I could create a common goal for these individuals, covering both their, how I'm feeling at my workplace and what I'm doing, and create something together with this team that, okay, let's go for this. So make them part of a change. I would think driving your own change, I think, is the key.
Yeah, and I asked a question that I don't have an answer to.
Classic.
Classic. I mean, I think that I would like if I were to do something tomorrow as a company, I would start with checking in on where my organization is, like where are all these individuals connected then to learning and development or knowledge for growth, like what does it mean to you, so that I get a collective picture on how everyone is looking at learning and development or knowledge for growth, so we know what it means. I guess I would start there and try to then figure out some kind of path.
Figure out what you don't know.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I want to know what everybody feels and thinks about it. Because, I mean, it's like saying, what is knowledge? I think it's important to know that within an organization, because it's going to be a lot of different things. Yeah, that's my ending.
Guess we're full circle then.
Yes, full circle. Cool. I don't know, how do we end this? I mean, this is us checking out. Thank you for listening, right?